You know, not for nothing. I remember a time when going out to see a Marvel film really used to mean something.
If you help me, so what's it gonna be? Ant-Man.
And today we have Ant-Man Quantumania. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure between whatever I decided on for the title, the thumbnail, and that opening, you're probably thinking I'm gonna sit here and shit on this movie. No, maybe a little bit. It's the bad side of Marvel that I wish we would stop leaning into this. It wasn't as egregious as some of their other titles. Long story short, Ant-Man Quantumania. I don't know if you're following Marvel like me or like the rest of us. It's almost like the sunk cost fallacy. I mean, I've practically grown up with the MCU and the big, huge, almost like monopolized conglomerate that it has evolved into. And don't get me wrong, I do love it overall. I hope that the rest of Phase 5 isn't like this. If you don't know, Ant-Man Quantumania is technically the third Ant-Man movie. You know, the first Ant-Man, which I actually really like the first Ant-Man. Don't get me wrong, I love Paul Rudd, the immortal being that is Paul Rudd. As usual, he does a very good job. I think he's been cast very well in this role. I think he embodies Ant-Man, a character who I knew jack all about before the MCU's existence. Ant-Man and the Wasp was alright. I will still die on the hill saying that Ant-Man and the Wasp only exists to give us the end credits scene that bridges a gap to Endgame, but that's just the argument that I make. And now we have this one. We have Phase 5, which if you don't know, Marvel, there's so many films and so much content between the movies, the shows, all the lore and everything that they've split it up into phases. And now we've reached the first movie of Phase 5. So all the movies that have been coming out the last couple years or so was all part of Phase 4 in that batch. And now we're going back into the quantum realm, a realm that's so small and not even really in our universe, but it's just so between the atoms and fabric of reality that you have to like get super. It's a long story, but we're in there and all of our characters get sucked back in, and then we're introduced to, well, in my opinion, the star of the show, shocker here, but the new big bad. You remember Thanos, right? No more snippy snap snap. Now we have Kane, or rather, I guess, Kane the Conqueror. Long story short, Jonathan Majors, as always, brilliant in whatever he's in. Steals the show, steals the scenes, kills it. They've been casting him in all the everything. I'm not against it. So those are the two actors I guess I wanted to point out. Wouldn't also hurt to mention Catherine Newton as the now grown-up daughter of Ant-Man, of Scott. They all have just regular ass names. Director of this one is Peyton Reed, who is no stranger to Marvel or Disney properties for that matter. I mentioned I like the first Ant-Man. He has directed every Ant-Man movie so far, so there's at least consistency in that regard. I'll go with the positives first. I mean, as I said, Jonathan Majors, Kane steals the show. He's an interesting character. We got a little taste of him in the Loki series, for reasons that I don't really quite want to spoil, because out of respect I at least won't get into the big like spoilery post end credits twists, revelations of Marvel, but I'll just say that, you know, we've met him before technically, and now we're meeting him again for reasons that shall be revealed. There are decent emotional moments in this movie. Before we get into my biggest problems with this movie, which kind of also stem off the positives of the film, I'll give it credit where credit's due. They really want to try to play up the father-daughter relationship. They want to play up the mother-daughter relationships that are in this. It's a lot about family matters in this, and it does come through on occasion. I mean, that's the whole thing, is that they're fighting to save the world, to try to escape the quantum realm, but also try to save each other. And I mean, there's some moments. You know, Ant-Man's one of the more comedic relief characters that is still taken seriously here and there. So credit for them. Not only do they take him seriously in moments throughout. In Marvel, comedy can be hit or miss. Lord knows I did not enjoy my time with Love and Thunder. and other films of its ilk. I think when Marvel leans into the goofy and the whole like, let's make loud noises and the beep beep boop boop gaga, like that's where it just starts grinding in my gears. And it's like, you can make a movie, a family movie, you can make it so kids and adults can all enjoy it without any of this lowbrow or just the low-hanging fruit. The comedy in this film does often land well. I did laugh out loud a few times, I chuckled throughout. Not all the comedy lands, but you know what? More comedy landed in this than what a lot of the people online seem to think. So, premise of this is that we're in this quantum realm, so there's going to be some crazy stuff going on, and there's creative creatures, designs, the stuff that's like silly and outlandish for the sake of it, and that's fine. Strange World did it last year. That's cool. I like it when movies get creative and get like wonky zonky. I feel like this kind of took the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness approach, where it's like, we're gonna dip our toe, not really heavily explore these concepts thematically, but just more look at the pretty colors, look at the cool critters. Anyway, back to our characters, and that's fine. It serves a purpose. It's creative. Hopefully the animators aren't getting shafted like they normally are. But here are my complaints. And here's the thing, I got into arguments with my friends about this stuff. Apparently my takes are very controversial in this regard, or at least to my friends, and I get it. I understand. Hear me out. I hope somebody understands this. I think there's a certain level of understanding and it's a difference of opinion. I think sometimes Quantumania is a little bit too silly, and that's it. And don't get me wrong, I love silly, outlandish things. My favorite movie from last year was Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And that film is Cuckoo Bonkers Bananas Crazy Town. And a lot of wacky shit happens in there. But you know what? It's grounded, it's taken seriously. There's excellent, top-tier writing, and it's able to take all the crazy stuff like fucking hot dog hands and make it into a metaphor about love and acceptance. Like that, it works. But for Quantumania, it's just like, I don't know. I think this complaint goes into my next complaint very well. It's a script. It's the writing, and it's how the messaging and the themes and the ideals they want to convey through this film. It's very just ham-fisted. It's just there's a little bit of subtlety, but Marvel used to have subtlety when it came to this stuff. Marvel films used to be this thing that was like, even if it was a more comedic relief character or something, like the first Ant-Man. The first Ant-Man was a serious story with the guy who's just trying to do right by his daughter and his family, and there was comedic relief inherent in that. There were characters that were as such, but it still was grounded, and the dialogue was good, and it just all flowed, and I thought it was just well written. So it's possible for them to do it, but what Marvel likes to do now apparently is just that they either make borderline masterpieces like Shang-Chi or Spider-Man No Way Home, or they'll make just kind of stuff like this, which is just a little bit schlocky. It's like it's just a movie going through the paces of what it thinks it should be for a Marvel film. It means that when the script is lacking and you have these very bare bone scenes where it's like, you're right, you gotta look out for the little guy, we have to care about each other, you hear that? We are together in this, I love you, I would do anything to help you, hey, that's the bad guy, we should go stop, like, that shit just it irritates me, because I've been spoiled. I've seen good writing. I've seen Marvel films that have better writing. I've seen family films that are silly and wacky and fun and just more leisurely and still are just better produced and written and all this, and I don't know, it just doesn't hit the mark for me. The whole thing's not bad. There's some decent moments, like I said. There's some comedic moments that are like actually good, organic, good comedy. And I get it, comedy's subjective. A lot of this is inherently opinion-based. And this is not a spoiler, by the way, but one of my biggest pet peeves about this film, and it goes into the script and into the callous way that the themes and character arcs are handled in this film. Look, here's the thing. You can see his face in the trailer, and it's no spoiler. Remember that guy from the first film? I like this actor, by the way. Remember the guy who was Darren Cross, the businessman kind of guy that was a dick, and he was the bad guy, quite obviously, and then he gets thwarted by the end, but he was just a dick, and he was played as such, and they just kind of laughed and belittled him. So in this one, as I'm sure you've seen, MODOK comes into play. I don't know if you know more than I do, probably, because I know very little about MODOK aside from like basic images from comics, but from what I understand, MODOK, though he is a ridiculous looking character, is usually, I don't know, taken kind of seriously. In his acronym itself, he's a machine that's meant and designed for the purpose of killing. Like, he's supposed to be the Terminator, right? This, like, threat. In this film, he's played for a laugh. And they hammer that in. They are like, oh, look at this guy. Every chance they get, he has the mask, and every chance he gets, he takes the mask off and is like, hey, remember me? It's Darren, look at me. Oh, but I'm a weapon of mass destruction now. By the way, not threatening. They could have made him actually threatening and a menace, but instead they make him this pitiful, like, oh, this is what I am now, and everybody just laughs at him, and he's the butt of every joke, and he has like this really derivative shit dialogue, and then he has this fucking stupid like arc of sorts that just ends in one of the worst like one-liner. It's like peak of low Marvel, and like I don't mind if you adapt a character and change him for the sake of a story, but like I felt like this is a miss. And this is coming from a guy who I know very little about the character, but I felt like they did the character a mighty disservice. I'm just saying. I was really looking for what Marvel would normally do, a subversion of expectations, and maybe make this character that appears to be silly and goofy, like maybe more of like an actual threat. Like a presence, a menace, but no. As usual, the power dynamics are weird and get wonky. It started to kind of teeter on the brink when you brought Thanos in and you have the Infinity Stones and the Gauntlet and trying to see what powers match or who could do what or what makes sense. And usually they're pretty good about kind of containing that, but with this especially when it comes to Kane and Ant-Man and the characters, the power fluctuations and dynamics are a little bit all over the place, are what they need to be to service the narrative, push things along, and create moments of peril for our characters. Marvel movies like this, it's very formulaic, I know people try to avoid trailers for movies for the sole purpose, but I always say that trailers are part of the marketing. And I hate that movies nowadays are like, here's trailer number 4, number 5, you're showing me even Shazam just did it. I know the whole movie's plot progression because of the Shazam trailers. The trailer should be just enough, still vague, give you a little taste, and then let people savor that and come up with the rest from there. But this trailer, shows all the, most of the major moments, and you can more or less piece it together as you're watching it, and even as it's going and the beats are coming. Again, formulaic. There's no big shockers, big surprises. It's all, you just see it coming, and that's just disappointing. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer either, because I felt like when I was talking about this movie with my friends, people were like, dude, I think you just aren't accepting the fact this movie is supposed to be silly. And I get that. Don't get me wrong, I understand, I get it, but you can have both. I'm the one who's always getting up on my milk crate on my pedestal and screaming out to the world, animation needs to be taken seriously. I'm not saying so serious, like, oh, corporate this, file this away, and you have to do it exactly like this. No, I mean like respected and admired, and you can have different levels of animation. I grew up with kids' movies too in animation. I'll tell you what, a lot of them still hold up because they were treated with respect, and even if it was simpler writing, it was still good simpler writing. Fucking Thomas the Tank Engine, I don't know, I'm just saying, this goes with any of the Marvel films, whether it's a super serious one, whether it's a more lighthearted romp, whether it's a family affair. All these movies are PG-13, by the way. All these movies deal with the fate of the universe in comics, which, by the way, the comics, don't even get me started on how dark and crazy and demented those get. And this is nothing compared to that. But Marvel has never shied away from making things serious so that there's stakes and you care about the characters and these powers. But if you get to a point where you're just pumping out movies that are like CGI formulaic and just nothing innovative, and just how much can we cram onto this, and oh, how many one-liners can we get in, and oh, here's what we want to do with this universe and introduce a new bad guy, so we're just going to focus on that, not worry too much about how much the journey there makes any sense. It's just, I still enjoy the MCU. I still enjoy many facets of Marvel. I'm still here. I'm still watching. I still reminisce about my time. Every time a new one comes out, I go to the theater. I support them. I go watch them. I like most of them. I love a few of them. Like some of the best movies I've seen, like superhero wise. Like, I recognize what the MCU has done for us, and for a while, as Shafrillis would say from his channel, for a while we were taking them for granted, and now I agree with him. I believe they're taking us for granted. Disney's always concerned with just how much can we fucking make, how much can we push out, how much can we do, how much, show, movie, and that's what gets me riled up. Is like, just bring it back. Go back to a time. We'll wait. We'll fucking wait. It's like game delays. I'll wait. Focus and spend time on it. Effort, thought, and just... I'm done ranting. I gotta be honest though. As a film, as the quality of the film and all that, for the most part, it accomplishes what it sets out to do. I think it's above average. It's good. I would not say this movie's great. I would even admit the critics are being a little bit harsh. Eternals deserved a rotten rating, in my opinion. I don't think this did. I would give Ant-Man Quantumania a high 3 out of 5. A high 3 out of 5. It is above average. Quality is mostly there, but it treads on some all too familiar ground that is the path that I don't want to see Marvel go down. So, it's just concerning, really. I love the MCU as much as the next guy, and I'm always here for it. But I hope that if they're going to teeter on the edge like this, I hope they at least can stay on the edge and don't fall into the abyss. That's all I'm saying. Go see it if you love Marvel. I don't think you have to see it in theaters, but you can definitely like stream it at home. Anyway, I've been doing a lot of ranting this episode. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode of whatever I review. And goodbye, travelers.